If I were to ask you what the holy grail of American cooking is, you might say roast turkey. And the perfect roast turkey has a great crispy skin and moist, flavorful breast meat, and the whole thing cooks in less than a few hours. But the reality is you probably put it in a 325 oven. The breast meat is all dried out by the time it's done, and it's often late to the table. And the skin, well, the skin is so-so. So what are you going to do? You're going to stay right here at America's Test Kitchen as we uncover the secrets of perfect and cooked under 3 hours roast turkey.
Join Christopher Kimball, editor-in-chief of Cooks Illustrated magazine, Test Kitchen chefs Julia Collin, Bridget Lancaster, and Kay Renschler, Doc Willoughby at the science desk, Jack Bishop from the tasting lab, and Adam Reed in the equipment corner. Discover the secrets of America's foremost food testers and tasters today on America's Test Kitchen.
Funding for America's Test Kitchen is made possible by the Amazon.com Kitchen Store, where you'll find a wide selection of kitchen tools, cookware, and expert advice.
And by Sub-Zero Freezer Company, makers of refrigerators for many rooms, many lifestyles. From the classic framed look to stainless steel, or disguised with an overlay. Sub-Zero Freezer Company, creating a full line of refrigerators for the home.
The best roast turkey? Well, I better say my wife.
My mama, she does.
We had it for Thanksgiving, Christmas. My dad loved to cook.
Definitely got to have a moist bird.
I usually cook it for too long. Something always goes wrong, but the major problem is being too dry.
I tend to overcook the white meat, so it turns out kind of unflavorful and drab.
Dry, 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 dry. Stringy, dry, and flavorless.
Here's the scene. It's 2 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day. You got 12 people ready for dinner. And where's the turkey? Well, the turkey was still frozen that morning when you took it out of the refrigerator. It's too big. You didn't give it enough time. You're trying to get the giblets out. They're still frozen in the cavity. You finally get them out. That's problem number one. Problem number two is you finally get the bird out, that pop-pop timer right here. It pops. And what happens? You slice into a beautiful turkey like this one, and you discover dry, dry, dry meat. This is meat that definitely needs gravy, so that's not going to work. Then you say, I'm a smart guy. I'm going to put a bag around the turkey and do a roast and bag method like we did here. And you open it up and you find the skin is, well, it kind of comes off and it's not very good looking. So what do you have? You have bad looking skin. You have dried out white meat. You have turkey that's not ready on time. You got a lot of problems. But the biggest problem is, which turkey do you buy? And we're going to find that out first. I have a neighbor in Vermont across the road who grows 2 turkeys every year, and the first one's named Thanksgiving and the second one is named Christmas. But most of us have to go to the store to buy a turkey. So Jack is here to tell us a little bit about what to buy.
Chris, we did for this tasting 9 different birds. We weren't so much interested in brands because there are very few national brands of turkeys, but types of turkeys. So we had a frozen bird, we had a fresh bird, we had one that was straight from the farm that one of our staff members actually slaughtered. We had a kosher bird, we had birds that were self-basted, which is a fancy word for a bird that's been injected with fat. So why don't you start tasting? The results really shocked us. We were surprised. Basically, the result was that a bird that had been manipulated in some fashion was a lot better than a plain old turkey. The birds that were injected, the kosher bird, which is put through a saltwater bath process after slaughter, which is sort of like brining, something which you can do at home, also did extremely well. Our conclusion is that turkey is so bland that you've got to do something to it. So tell me what you're tasting and what you like and what you don't like.
I don't know which is which, so. This is very dry and very chewy. This one is much moister and is a little saltier and is better. This one actually I like the best. I thought it had a more buttery flavor and was equally as moist as this one.
Okay. This bird over here, which came in second in the tasting, was the Empire kosher bird. Again, it's gone through that saltwater process, and it's probably the best seasoned bird here.
It's good.
This bird is the butterball frozen.
Butterball frozen?
Butterball frozen that's been injected with 3%.
So let's see, a frozen injected bird did how well?
It came in fourth, and a similar bird that was also frozen and injected came in first, the Marvell bird. But this class of bird, whether frozen and self-basting, did very well.
And what was this one?
This was a butterball fresh, which was towards the bottom of the rankings.
So if you buy butterball, buy frozen instead of fresh? Is that right?
Well, and it's also that has no injection. The frozen fresh, there was no difference. The real difference here is that this one's got a 3%
So is this like a
solution of
natural
water.
injection, or they put other things in it?
Vegetable oil, broths, flavor
Flavors,
enhancers,
whatever
sodium
that is.
phosphate,
Okay.
et cetera, et cetera.
So we learned that brined or injected birds are better than regular birds. And oh, by the way, how did that one do, the natural one?
It was at the bottom of the rankings. It tasted
Really?
Sour and livery were the sort of predominant comments from our tasters.
So a naturally raised bird, maybe it's because that bird got table scraps or...
It may have had a hard life.
who
really
a lot of
knows?
stress being around this kitchen.
But it wasn't a guarantee that necessarily by spending more money or going to a farm that you were going to get a bird that everyone was going to say, oh, what a great bird.
So we liked in brined or injected birds. And we also basically found that turkeys don't have much flavor. You got to do something to them so they taste good. But we think we could do better. We think we could go get a high-quality bird, the best we can find, and now we're going to try to brine it ourselves. You may call us crazy, but we started this recipe roasting 12 different turkeys just to see what would work and, unfortunately, what wouldn't. Here's what wouldn't work. We tried cheesecloth dipped in butter, roasted it on top, and we got very dry breast meat. And then we tried the turkey in the bag, which looks kind of fun, but take a close look at that skin. It's all spotty and really unattractive. What else did we do? Well, Julia Child has a good idea. She says cut the turkey into parts and roast them separately so the white meat can come out before the dark meat. That actually works pretty well, but you got to cut it up and you don't have that wonderful presentation on Thanksgiving Day or any other day. We tried a bunch of other things. We braised the bird. We tried putting aluminum foil over the breast and top of the thigh meat. We tried lots of things, and none of them worked. But we do know that we liked a brine turkey from our tasting, and we thought that brining might be a way to go. So Bridget's here to tell us a little bit about how to brine a turkey.
It's a method that's been around for quite some time. It's actually a method of preserving and enriching and flavorizing and moisturizing meat by soaking it in a salt solution with water and salt, sometimes sugar. It draws out some of the moisture that's in the turkey and it replaces it with flavorized water. And it allows the meat to plump up, and some of them actually put on a few pounds after they've come out of the brine.
So now I got to do some work here?
We're going to show how to do a brine.
Okay.
So I've got a cooler here because a lot of people complain that, okay, you brine, I've got this giant apparatus that's taking up all my space in the refrigerator. What can I do? We're going to show you how you can sit this on your countertop and still be assured that there isn't any problems with the contamination. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you put in 2 gallons of water right into the bucket there. Use those muscles. All right.
This is a really great cooking show. I'm pouring water into a beer cooler. This is how exciting.
So now we have some kosher salt here.
Now, why is kosher different than table salt?
You can use table salt too, and I'll give those proportions.
Okay.
Yeah, you use half the amount of table salt that you do for kosher salt.
So you dump it in.
So I've got 4 cups.
Does that water have to be hot or can it be cold? It doesn't matter really?
I wouldn't have it hot.
Cool water.
Cool water. Got to keep it cool.
Because it'll still dissolve.
Right. Okay. And one problem that some people have is that they don't dissolve the salt enough, and you take the turkey out of the brine at the end, and you end up with this inch of salt on the bottom, so it hasn't gone into the meat instead. There we go.
So now what do we do?
Now, got the turkey all ready to go. Just pick him right up.
That's very attractive.
Lay him right in there, making sure that he's fully submerged. And then, as I said before, a lot of people are wary about having turkey on their countertop for good reason. These are ice packs that you can get sometimes when you buy shrimp at the grocery store, and they include an ice pack in there. These are great. You just put 4 or 5 in there. Alternatively, you can take some ice cubes and throw them in a Ziploc and
so
do the same thing. Right. You don't want
dilute the brine.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm just going to cover this.
So now we got brine bird. Now what do we do?
Now, after 4 hours, we would then
try to open the top.
Try to open the top.
Okay.
We would take all these ice packs out.
And then we'd rinse it off.
You want to rinse it thoroughly,
okay.
The inside and the exterior of the bird. You rinse it out, you pat it dry, and then we're going to have to put it on a rack that's on top of a sheet pan because we're going to throw it in the fridge overnight. So instead of this taking up space in your fridge, you're going to have a turkey that's only this tall taking up space in your fridge.
And the reason you put it in the fridge?
The skin continues to evaporate, so you have all this moisture being drawn out, and you have this nice, thick, crispy skin as the result.
So brining makes a really moist breast meat with flavor. So now we solve the breast meat being too dry. Now we have better skin.
Right. It actually allows it to stay plump and juicy for quite some time afterwards. Okay. Leftovers are great, too.
All right. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Now that we know that brining is our preferred method for prepping a turkey, Doc is here to tell us a little bit about why it works. Are we going to start with a nap or what?
No, we're going to start with a little explanation about salt. Salt is one of those amazing substances. It's very simple, but has incredible effects on food. And as you'll find out, salt makes food juicier and also more flavorful. And how does this work? How does the salt get up in there? How does it do its work? By osmosis. Osmosis. Okay. It's a very simple process that goes on in nature all the time. All that happens is something passes from one area through a barrier into another area. And in common talk, you might have heard people talk about learning by osmosis. That means if I'm in a kitchen and somebody is doing something, but I'm not really paying attention, it still might pass into my brain. When I was in college, I had a friend who made me remember what osmosis was because he thought that if you put a book under your pillow and slept on it, by osmosis, the knowledge would pass into your brain.
And what is he doing now?
Now he's a food writer. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. But osmosis in meat really does work. So we're going to look at this as a little model here of a turkey, in this case, cell, and the brine around it. This is a semi-permeable cell wall.
So cells have M&Ms in them?
They
do.
What
you're saying?
Yeah.
And pistachio nuts.
And pistachios. The M&Ms in here are little protein molecules that are inside the cell wall. And these little pistachios are water. Outside, we have more pistachios, more water, and these little green M&Ms are actually salt. Now, nature likes a balance. Nature wants everything to be even and fair. So what happens here is you have a lot more water molecules on one side than on the other. So they start passing through the semi-permeable barrier.
Little pistachio nuts.
Little pistachio nuts are passing through there. A little bit of the salt goes in there with them, too. These protein molecules can't pass. That's why it's semi-permeable. They can't pass through there, but the salt and the water molecules can. So what you end up with is a lot more fluid inside the cells and a little bit of salt. So when you cut into it, it's juicier, and because salt amplifies flavor, it's also more flavorful. So try some.
Okay.
Isn't that the best turkey you ever had?
It's very chocolatey.
Yeah. So brining is a very effective way of getting flavor and moisture into meat.
So for a sweet, chocolatey turkey, brine it first.
That's
okay.
right.
Now, let's go figure out how to stuff that bird. Almost everybody likes to stuff their bird, and why? Because the stuffing sometimes is better than the turkey itself. But the problem with stuffing is that if it doesn't get over 160, it can be dangerous. Now, to get it over 160, the white meat has to be over 180. And the problem is you have dry meat then. So I'm here with Julia, who's going to help us solve the problem with great stuffing.
Yeah. Well, here we have one of my favorite stuffings. Caramelized onions, some bacon, and some sage. I like to bake it on the side, actually. I like the crisp top. I like to have the ease of not putting it in the turkey. But if you're a die-hard traditionalist and you want to put it in the turkey,
if you want to do it anyway.
Yeah, if you got to be traditional and want to put it in the turkey, this is how you do it. What I'm going to do is make a pouch with this cheesecloth, and then we're going to bring the stuffing up to a starting point of 120 degrees and then put it in the raw turkey. This is a big piece of cheesecloth, 2.5 feet by a foot, and I've doubled it, so it's not one layer, it's two. So you take the stuffing, which is about 5-6 cups of stuffing, and I'm afraid that's all that fits into this 12 to 14 pound bird. Any extra, you're going to have to bake it on the side anyway. You make kind of a log shape in the middle of the cheesecloth, and then you fold it over, very tidy, and then you tie one end with just a simple knot, and then pick it up and you gently shake the stuffing down into a compact area, kind of the shape that would fit into the turkey, and then make a tie on the other side, and then just simply trim off the excess. You don't want this hanging out of your bird while it's in the oven. Now this is what we need to bring up to a temperature of 120 degrees.
This looks like one of those little Martha Stewart gift packages. It's cute.
It is cute. So the best way to get this up to 120 degrees is the microwave. It takes about 6 to 7 minutes on high.
Now the reason you preheat it is just to give it a head start?
Yep. Giving it a head start, bringing it up to 120, 130 degrees. It goes in the bird warm, and that starting heat that it starts out with, by the time the heat gets to the inside of the turkey, it'll bring it up to that safe 165 degree range. Well, our stuffing looks like it should be done. Whew, that is hot. Let's take its temperature. Hope it's 120, 130 degrees. Yep, perfect. So it's about 130, which is perfect. It's just where we want it to be. Ooh, this is hot. And this rubber glove is really helping. And gently, without trying to, mush the stuffing into a tight, warm ball, fit it inside the cavity.
Oh, looks great.
For
looks very
stuffing
nice.
a turkey,
Looks very
it's
nice.
just the tidiest way to go about it. So now, if you don't have a stuffing, like I said, we recommend doing it on the side for ease. Like at my house, people bringing various dishes, someone else brings the stuffing. We found that adding the aromatics, that being the onions and the carrots and the celery and a little bit of thyme made a huge difference in the flavor of the meat.
So if you don't stuff it, we suggest putting in...
Yeah, putting a few aromatics just to flavor the meat as it roasts.
A lot of people would think that wouldn't actually affect the meat, but it does. You
It
can
does.
taste it.
It does. You could definitely taste it. Most actually in the thigh of the meat. It was very apparent. And that was about a tablespoon of butter.
Some people cook with these gloved hands. I like to use my hands. Don't you like to feel the food?
I do, absolutely.
Take that thing off. That makes me...
What glove?
There you go. Okay. That feels better now. Like my hand's dirty. Use your hands.
So this is just about 1 medium onion, about half a carrot, and about half a piece of celery, rough chopped, mixed with a couple sprigs of thyme, about a tablespoon of butter. And we found that you need to truss a turkey. It's a presentation on the table. You want to bring the whole turkey to the table. Know what you're doing when you're carving it.
Unless you carve it in the kitchen, which I do, so you don't have to truss.
Right.
Okay.
But you still want it to look attractive. You want it to look pretty.
But the problem with trussing is that the inside of this part, the air doesn't get to it so easily. So there is a problem which we'll solve.
There is a problem, which maybe we can deal with in the cooking, and maybe we won't do a full truss. We'll do a partial truss. Okay. And this will keep the legs from splaying out. If you don't and it cooks, the legs stick straight out and it looks like a bird on the run. So here we have about 5 feet of tangled twine. You want to hold those for me?
You have to do something.
Yeah. Most important is the legs. So you cross the legs, and then you tie them tightly, and I kind of wrap it around the bottom. Make sure it's nice and tight. Those legs want to start running. And then over the top of the drumstick like this. You don't want to go down into that valley. And also, this neck meat over here, this attractive piece of skin, you want to tuck underneath the bird. And then over the edge of the turkey wing, and then right in front on top where the neck would be. Tie it tight right on the neck. Skin right there. Oh, and that is what we call a simple truss. Okay. Keeps it a compact bird without all the fancy wires and without...
The air still has a chance to get in.
Yeah, it has a chance to get in there. So this bird's all trussed up, ready for the oven.
Now we're going to go on and do some quick testing of instant read thermometers, which we'll use to figure out when this bird is done when it comes out of the oven. Every August, our small town has the annual ox roast, and we don't roast an ox, but we do roast the hindquarters of usually an Angus. And we use a thermometer like this one. But at home, you obviously are cooking something a little smaller, and Adam is here to tell us a little bit about how to buy an instant read thermometer.
Absolutely. We tested a bunch of different instant read thermometers. We tested some that were digital readouts and some that were dial faces. And generally, we really preferred the digital readouts. They were much clearer and easier to read. You can see actually on this dial face that the little marks that indicate the temperatures are just really compressed, and they're very hard to read. The only advantage we found to the dial face thermometers is that there's a little nut that's right underneath the face, and if the thermometer isn't accurate, and the way you test that is to put it into a slurry of ice water like that, and it should read 32 degrees exactly, you can take a pair of needle nose pliers and adjust it until it reads the right temperature. You can't really do that with a digital thermometer. This model is not a true instant read thermometer. It's called a polder. This thing, you can preset a temperature that you want to reach, and it will start beeping when you reach that temperature.
Like
you can
160 for chicken or something?
Absolutely. You can leave this in the chicken that goes in the oven, snake the cord through the oven door. This has a magnet on the back, and you can attach that to the oven, and it'll start beeping when you're there. So it's great. You don't have to keep going in and checking every now and then. This also has a timer built in. So this is a great thing. These are between $25 and $30, depending on where you get them. The winner of the test was the ThermoWorks ThermaPen. You swing the probe out like that to turn it on. It has huge numbers,
That's great to
which
see
you can see really easily. It has an automatic shutoff. So if you just put it down and go do something else, it'll turn itself off instead of running the battery out. And it reads really quickly. These are instant read thermometers. You don't want to have to stand there for...
So an old-fashioned meat thermometer, you put in a roast, it would take a minute to read it?
Minute and a half, something like
And
that.
these would be 5 seconds?
Less than 10 seconds for this one.
And what's the name of that one that was the winner?
This is the ThermoWorks ThermaPen.
And that's, what are you, 50? That's expensive.
No. It's more like $70. Oh. We actually chose a Best Buy because we realized not everyone is going to spend that much money. So for $15, you can buy a great Taylor digital thermometer. These have a good wide range. They go down to -50, I think.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to go finish roasting our turkeys, and we're going to use an instant read thermometer to find out exactly when they're done. Now we're ready to actually go roast a turkey, but we want to do this as quickly as possible, not 10 hours or 5 hours, but maybe in a couple hours or 2 hours, 3 hours. So Bridget is here to help us get this thing into the oven and out of the oven.
Yep.
But how do you get it started? That looks terrible.
This is a turkey that's been roasting in its own juices with chicken schmaltz all over the place. Here, so, yeah. We learned from this that we want to elevate the bird. We're also trying to, now we've got the moist breast meat from the brining, we've got the great skin from the air drying. Now we want to get a nice, even cooking method. So we're going to start with a V-rack. And what I've got here is just a simple nonstick V-rack. For this purpose, it doesn't really matter too much if it's
a nice heavy-duty one, too. It's not one of those collapsible jobs.
Right.
Okay.
And then this is just a bottom of a broiler pan. So I'm going to line this with a sheet of foil. And then to get my aggressions out, I'm going to start poking it. This is my homage to Anthony Perkins here. All right, there's probably about 30 little holes in there. That's going to allow the fat to drain down. And then I'm going to spray it just with a little bit of vegetable spray. And something I forgot to do here, I'm going to dump just a little bit more of the same aromatics that we used in the cavity of our bird, the bottom of the pan. I'm going to add about a cup of water.
Why are you doing that?
I'm doing this so that I can start to make some lovely pan drippings, facilitate a gravy later on. So I'm going to fit that right on there nice and snug.
And now the bird.
Now the bird. So I'm just going to brush the breast side with about a tablespoon of melted butter, unsalted butter.
Now, we've also tried oil and pan drippings, too, and butter gives a nice color.
Butter gives it a nice color. It also helps to crisp it. The oil made the skin really flabby. We went this far to develop that great skin. And the pan drippings did the same thing. So now, once again, I'm going to start this guy backside down. You can see the V-rack's just perfect for this. So just brush that. That was just about another tablespoon of butter. And now I'm going to throw it into a 400-degree oven.
Okay.
And I'm going to roast it for 45 minutes. And I have the rack on the very bottom of the oven.
Now, this is a very high oven. The Butterball style recipe is like 350.
Right.
So this is actually going to come out of here pretty quick. It's a quick recipe.
It is. It's a little under 2 hours.
And when it comes out, we're going to turn it.
We're going to turn it.
Stay tuned.
It's been 45 minutes. Now it's time to check on it. Obviously, it's not done at this point.
Now what?
Now, something I've been wanting to do my whole life is flip the bird on TV. Well, for this, I'm going to use these because I can always throw them in my washer, clean them up, and I get over that whole thing.
Let's see how good you are.
I'm going to turn it to its side. See how you can get a real nice grip on it. It's steadier than it looks. I'm going to brush it with some butter, another tablespoon. Just get a little bit on the back there. All right, so let's throw it in the oven one more time. And you see why the rack is on the very bottom.
There you go. So this is what, a 12-pound bird?
I think it's a 12, 13-pound bird. I'm going to set this for 15 minutes.
Then what? Comes out?
Comes out, I flip it to the other side, the other wing up, and then I brush it again with butter. And then I roast it for 15 more minutes, same temperature. And then
Which is what, 400?
400.
Okay.
And then I flip it breast side up, brush the last tablespoon of butter on it, and put it back in for 30 to 35 minutes until it's ready to come out.
Is it ready?
Turkey
time.
We're
going to find out.
Gorgeous. Fabulous. Turkey to be proud of.
Okay, we have the bird in a 400-degree oven. We started with backside up, breast side down for about 45 minutes. We flipped the bird one side up for 15 minutes. We flip it other side up for 15 minutes, and then we finish off breast side up for about half an hour. But is it done? Now, what is this? This is the instant read thermometer.
That we chose.
And now what are we going to do?
We're going to put it right in the crook between the leg, and we want a reading of about 170 to 175, and there it is.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yep.
Now, if it's down around 160 with the turkey, it's going to be a little bloody at the bone, excuse the expression, but it's not going to be great. You need about 170?
Yeah,
is that right?
I would say 170, at least here. It can be a little bit less in the breast. So in the breast, you want to go on the side, being careful not to hit the bone. And you can see it's 163, 164. It's perfect. You can actually, it can go a little higher in temperature with the brine. It doesn't matter as much. You get a cushion that way.
Yeah, one of the things about the brining is I've actually had a bird that was 175 to 180 in the breast meat, which is overcooked normally. You wouldn't be able to eat it.
Right.
But with the brining, it actually keeps it fairly moist. So
still pretty good.
There we are. That looks to me like the perfect roast bird.
Oh, it's delicious. Sweet and moist and just perfect.
Very good. I noticed that it's really moist.
Really flavorful, moist. I'm going to find out how they made it.
Cookbook author Marion Cunningham often says that great food is the perfect gift. And our gift to you is this recipe for roast turkey. We brine it the day before for 4 hours. We let it air dry in the refrigerator overnight. And best of all, Thanksgiving Day or any other day of the year you want to make it, you pop it in the oven for under 2.5 hours and it's ready. No more waiting. And what do? You get great crispy skin on the outside. You get moist breast meat on the inside and dark meat that's perfect too. So from America's Test Kitchen to your kitchen, the perfect roast turkey.
Detailed recipes for everything cooked in America's Test Kitchen are available in The Best Recipe. The book contains over 700 easy-to-follow recipes and 200 illustrations, plus kitchen equipment tests and food tasting results. To order your copy by credit card, call 1-800-888-3384. The price is $29.95 plus handling.